Good Erev Shabbos. This week we read the parsha of V'aschanan. V'aschanan begins with a heartfelt plea and prayer. Moshe reflects on the prayer that he made to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to allow him to go into the land of Israel. And this was the culmination of many, many prayers, tefillos that Moshe Rabbeinu made to Hashem. And Hashem was steadfast in his refusal not to allow Moshe into the promised land of Eretz Yisrael. But I just want to focus on the response that Hashem said to Moshe. Hashem said to Moshe, Rav lach, it's enough of you davening al tosef, daber lai od b'daber zeh. Do not continue to speak to me about this. Alei Rosh HaPisgah, go up to the top of the summit. V'sayinecha, lift up your eyes. Yama v'tzafona v'seimana mizracha. West, north, south, and east. Or beinecha, and see with your eyes. Kilo savor seyarden izeh. Because you will not pass by this Jordan River. It seems to be a very, one can argue, very cruel response to Moshe. I don't mean to suggest that it's cruel because God did not acquiesce to Moshe's request, but the manner in which he responded. And that is because, for example, if a parent doesn't allow a child to have candy, that may be understandable, but it wouldn't sound right for the parent to take the child into the candy store and say, that's the M&Ms, that's the Kit Kats, that's the Snickers, and by the way, you won't be able to have any of it. That's what it sounds like with Moshe. Moshe desperately wanted to go into the land of Israel. Hashem said, you're not going to go into the land, as it says in Zosef Baruch, but I've showed it to you. I've shown it to you with your eyes, but you will not enter it. Well, don't show it to him. It's just like taking the kid to the candy store and telling him that he can't eat any candy. This seems to be a very cruel way to react. So there's this fascinating idea from the Kli Yakar in this week's Parsha. And the Kli Yakar basically says that there are two aspects to the land of Israel. There's the physical aspect to the land of Israel, and then there's the spiritual aspect to the land of Israel. And each aspect is blessed in an extraordinary way. So the physical aspect, even though the land of Israel is a small parcel of land, relatively speaking, but the natural resources that this land has is just remarkable. And that is, it has a freshwater lake, and the Kinneret, and has the Dead Sea, and there's mountains, great mountains and valleys, and there's beaches, and not even to mention the produce that grows in the land of Israel, which is such a superior kind of produce, and it's so blessed in natural resources. But besides all this physical blessing, there's the spiritual aspect. That the spiritual aspect is that one can connect to Hashem in the land of Israel in a more profound way than any other way in the world. So the question we have to ask ourselves: why was Moshe so desperate, so to speak, to enter Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel? And that's a question that the Talmud asks. The Talmud asks, did Moshe want to eat the fruits? Moshe wanted the Jaffa oranges. Did he want the Israeli breakfasts, the hotels that the Israelis are famous for? So says the Talmud, no, Moshe wanted to enter the land of Israel for the opportunity to perform more mitzvahs. Because more mitzvahs that you can perform, you have a greater connection to Hashem. So it was all about the spirituality. So says the Kli Yakar as follows. In order to acquire something physical, you have to actually make a physical acquisition. You have to, in halacha we call it, a kinyan, a physical acquisition by lifting it up or pulling it, so on and so forth. But for someone to have a spiritual acquisition, it's sufficient to just stare at something and meditate on it and try to internalize it. So that's what Hashem was telling Moshe. Hashem was telling Moshe, why do you want to enter the land of Israel? It's not for the breakfast, it's not for the fruits and vegetables, it's not for the physical aspect, but rather it's because of the spiritual aspect. Well, as far as the spiritual aspect goes, Lei Rosh HaPisgah, you go up to the summit next to it, or Ei Beinacha, Yama B'Tzavana B'Tamena, Harisi, or Harisicha Beinacha, B'Sham Lo Samar. So in the end, God was granting Moshe's request that he can benefit from the land of Israel. I think this underscores for us not just an insight into that exchange, which is very profound, but also how much we have to be thankful to have Eretz Yisrael in our lives, both for the physical aspect, but most importantly for the spiritual aspect. I wish you all a good Erev Shabbos.